Hey, Wyze. With Horikoshi officially stating that My Hero Academia will effectively end in 2022, this leads to so many questions. Will there be a Shippuden? Is My Hero Academia being rushed? And how is this series going to end? So in this video, we're going to continue that idea and talk about everything that needs to happen before My Hero Academia ends. Because if My Hero Academia is going to go down as a revolutionary shonen series, the least thing Horikoshi could do is conclude the plot threads that he opened up in the series. Now, as a disclaimer, I might have forgotten about a few events or plot threads that are open in the series, so after watching this video, let me know in the comment section what I missed, and if there's too many things that I did miss, I might make a part 2. Now, the first thing that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends is you subscribing to the channel and post notification bells on. Guys, if you put barbecue sauce on your chicken nuggets, you have to subscribe. And if you like ranch instead, just comment in the comment section chicken nuggets. But in all seriousness, we're gonna put every single thing that we need to know about My Hero Academia before it ends in particular categories. Categories such as powers, fights, deaths, backstories, and character stories. Now, when it comes to the powers that we need to see before the end of My Hero Academia, Shoto's quirk awakening needs to be one of those things. Spoilers for anyone who is in anime only, but in the recent chapters of the My Hero Academia manga, Shoto is shown to be developing a new technique using both his ice and his fire side that will grant his body a level of durability that can nullify Dobby's fire. And although I'm super hyped for this upgrade, if you will, that is more so a technique, and it goes completely against the idea that Shoto is effectively the strongest Todoroki and will eventually be strong enough to surpass All Might, especially when you consider the fact that in the joint training arc when Shoto had a flashback in his fight against 𝙲𝚘𝚙𝚢𝚛, in his flashback Endeavor not only said that Shoto has the potential greater than anybody, but he also said in order to hit that limit, Shoto needs to raise his fire higher and higher. And being that this new technique that Shoto is displaying is more about how he regulates his power and less about him maximizing and even surpassing the limits of both his fire and his ice side, that tells me that Shoto is nowhere near the projection of power that Endeavor said he was going to be. So I 100% believe that before My Hero Academia will end, Shoto will have an awakened quirk. The next power-up that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends is Bakugou's awakening. And just like Shoto, Bakugou also has a new technique called Cluster, where essentially he's able to condense his explosion so much so that he creates double the impact on one piece of sweat. And the more sweat he creates, the more powerful his explosion, especially consider that they're double the impact. Now, people may believe that this is already a quirk awakening, but I don't think that's the case at all, because Bakugou pretty much said that he got the idea from the techniques that he gained from talking to Endeavor. And the main reason why I personally believe that Bakugou has to have a quirk awakening or another evolution or power up to his quirk is also because his goal is to surpass All Might. But I know people are going to be stubborn and say that Bakugou is not going to surpass All Might, even though that's not true. But if you consider the fact that Bakugou's power might be relative to a current Deku, which is probably between 45 and 50 or 60%, that is nowhere near 100% Deku, which is relative to All Might's strength. And if Bakugou is going to try to fight against a Shigaraki or even an All For One, but he's only relative to a 45 to 60% Deku, he is 100,000,000% going to get mopped, especially when you consider the fact that a 75% Shigaraki was tossing and turning 45% attacks from Deku. So Bakugou has to evolve his quirk or awaken his quirk in some way before the final battle. Or not before the final battle, but at least before My Hero Academia ends. Now, this is easily the most blatant power-up that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends, and that is Deku getting to 100% one for all. I don't think I need to explain why Deku needs to hit 100% one for all before the end of the series, but it's not just the fact that he needs to hit 100% one for all, it's also the fact that he 100% needs to be able to use the second user's quirk, and not just the second user's quirk, but he needs to be able to use all the user's quirk in conjunction with each other. Considering the fact that in his fight against Lady Nagan, when he first used the quirk 𝚲𝚘𝚙𝚎, the third user of One For All and Deku himself mentions that Deku doesn't have good parallel processing when it comes to using multiple quirks at once, and that he's only limited to using about 3 quirks at once. And this is exactly what Endeavor was talking to Deku about during the Endeavor Agency arc, which is before using another quirk, he needs to take time and master one quirk. So far, I would say that he's proficient enough at using Float and also Black Whip, but using Danger Sense, 𝚲𝚙𝚎, Smoke String, and the One For All stockpile quirk all at the same time stalls up his body. So Deku has to master parallel processing for him to be able to use all his quirks in conjunction with each other, and then he has to master the One For All stockpile quirk to 100% to actually compete with All For Shigaraki. So he has to grow a lot in a year's time. Class A and Class B also have power-ups that I would like to see, but realistically, it seems like they're going to be exactly where they are. Some characters might evolve their quirks such as Ida, Kirishima, or even Tokoyami, but I don't think there's going to be any drastic shift in their power before the end of the series. But now we're moving on to the fight that we need to see before the end of My Hero Academia. The first fight that we 100% need to see before the end of My Hero Academia is obviously the last fight in My Hero Academia, Deku versus All for Shigaraki. Now when I say All for Shigaraki, I'm meaning the fusion between All for One and Shigaraki, and not All for One and Shigaraki at the same time. Because I believe that Bakugou is going to fight against All for One's real body, which is another thing that obviously we need to see before the end of My Hero Academia. Especially because it seems like Bakugou has a very weird connection with All for One, and I'm definitely going to be making a video about that pretty soon. The third fight that we 100% will get to see is Shoto and Endeavor versus Dobby, which could easily be transferred to just Shoto versus Dobby or Endeavor versus Dobby, but they're going to be somewhat in the same vicinity. And lastly, we have to see Toga versus Ochako. These four are the only characters that actually has a rival in some cases, mainly because these are like the main plot line with the main characters and the main villains of the story. But to also have some fun, because I know people might mention this in the comment section below, but it'd be really interesting if we get to see a Kirishima versus Giganto Makia before the end of My Hero Academia as well. That might be the most one-sided but oddly compelling, because you don't know how the series will actually go if they were to fight in the entire story. Every other fight is more so just being in the way, but these are the fights that I think are 100% needed to be seen before the end of My Hero Academia. And out of all the characters that I really want to see die before My Hero Academia ends, these are the characters that need to die before My Hero Academia ends. Gran Torino needs to die before My Hero Academia ends, and it's just because I just want him to. He should not be alive, guys. Gran Torino should be. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But Gran Torino should be dead. All Might needs to die before My Hero Academia ends. Throughout the entire story of My Hero Academia, since My Hero Academia chapter 39, All Might has been hinted at that he is going to die. So much so that in the last 20 or so chapters of My Hero Academia, All Might has hinted at his own death 3 different times, where he said to some thugs that were trying to attack him during the Lady Negan versus Deku fight that he will not let a single thing happen to Deku unless he's dead. And he also mentioned 2 more times after that he will find his way on the battlefield. Whether he crawls, walk, or run, he is going to find a way to be a part of this final battle. Because if he's not, then he feels like he's useless and he feels like he can't keep up with the next generation of heroes. And I don't know about you, but to me that sounds like Horikoshi is setting up All Might to die before My Hero Academia ends. Now another character that I feel like needs to die before My Hero Academia ends is Endeavor. Endeavor is just like All Might in that he hinted at his potential death as well, especially during the Endeavor agency arc, where he mentioned that every single night he had dreams, and in every dream he would see his entire family smiling and enjoy each other, but he would never be there, which very much can be viewed as Endeavor realizing that he might die, or at least that he would be okay if he wasn't around. Another character that needs to die before My Hero Academia ends is Best Jeanist, mainly because every time Best Jeanist is in a story, he is always dying. I mean, he died like twice, and he almost died a 3rd time during the Pernible Liberation War arc. So I definitely believe that Horikoshi is going to kill Best Jeanist before My Hero Academia ends. The next character who I believe should die before My Hero Academia ends is Aizawa Sensei. Aizawa Sensei is the direct representation of what it means to sacrifice for anybody, because he has sacrificed his job as a teacher, he has sacrificed his job as a hero, and he has almost sacrificed his life twice to try to protect Class A. And in the final war of My Hero Academia, I don't see Aizawa Sensei just sitting back and allowing the students to do things by themselves, and I 100% believe that even though he has one eye, he's still able to use his quirk in some way, shape, or form, which will make him go out into the battlefield with Class A. And because Aizawa Sensei believes that he needs to take responsibility and take care of all of Class A, I feel like he's going to once again sacrifice himself, but this time he will die. The next character who should die before My Hero Academia ends is the Hero Killer Stain. And this is self-evident because the Hero Killer Stain himself told All Might that after he come back to his senses about who he truly is, he actually wants All Might to come after him and kill him. So because the Hero Killer Stain seemingly wants to die, I think it's very much possible that he will die. Now, albeit he's not going to die at the hands of All Might, but I still believe that he should die before My Hero Academia ends. And the last person that I believe should die before My Hero Academia ends is All for One. And this is 100% banking on the idea that Shigaraki is going to break free from his clutches and effectively kill him himself. And I actually think that this has been set up ever since the My Villain Academia arc, where in the very first panel in the manga section, which actually was not in the anime, this mysterious man who we presume to be All for One was the one who brought Shigaraki home, meaning that it's very much possible that the hatred that Shigaraki has for All for One is because he knows that All for One was essentially the reason why he lived the life that he lived. But that's not confirmed yet. Nonetheless, Shigaraki Shigaraki does 100% hate All For One, and I think one of his goals is to kill All For One. And speaking of All For One and going on to the next category, I think All For One's backstory needs to be revealed before My Hero Academia ends. He is the most mysterious character in all of My Hero Academia, and we only got 2 glimpses from his backstory, both talking about the comic books that him and his brother Yoichi was reading when they were young age. There is definitely some potential for All For One having the best backstory in the entire story, but we have to see it, and it needs to be before My Hero Academia ends. Another backstory that I personally believe that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends is Dobby. So far, we've gotten the overwhelming majority of Dobby's backstory explained, but there's still a huge question mark, which is how in the heck did he survive the fire that almost killed him? And what did he do / who was he with over the last 10+ years to get to where he is today? Dobby, just like All For One, is one of the most mysterious characters in the entire story of My Hero Academia. And just like All For One, I 100% believe that we need to get the backstory of Dobby. Now, this is not as likely as I would like it to be, but I personally would love to see us get the backstory of some of the One For All users. And by some, I mainly mean the first, second, and third user because they were all in the same era together. We especially need to see Yoichi's backstory because it connects to All For One. And actually, it's because Yoichi's backstory is connected to All For One as to why I want to see the second and third One For All user, because they were the ones that were fighting against All For One's forces, and they were the ones who saved Yoichi. Plus, I really think Bakugou and the second One For All user has some connection, and I would love to see the backstory of the second One For All user and his future lineage getting into Bakugou, because maybe the reason why Bakugou is going to fight against All For One's real body is connected to the second One For All user's will in fighting against All For One's forces in the past. But again, I'm going to save that for a video. Now, this section is all the characters that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends. And when I say need to see, I don't just mean in a panel, and I actually mean they have to have some level of significance before My Hero Academia ends. Because if not, then Horikoshi quite literally lied to us saying that they were going to be important, and My Hero Academia, although it's good, will not go down as one of those staple series. The first character that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends is Eri. She is easily the biggest plot device in the entire story of My Hero Academia, and I need to see what's going to happen to her next. And with her, we need to see Mirio, because Mirio is Mirio, and Horikoshi literally made Eri give Mirio back his quirk, and if Horikoshi didn't bring him back, then that would mean that he made Eri give Mirio back his quirk for him to not be relevant in the series anymore. He has to be some form of vital to the end of My Hero Academia, and he might even fight alongside with Deku against Shigaraki. I only say that because his quirk very much can assist Deku, even though he has the quirk Danger Sense. Because unlike Deku's Danger Sense, Mirio quite literally cannot get hit. Where with Danger Sense, if Shigaraki is fast enough, which currently he is, Deku cannot stop himself from getting touched / decayed by Shigaraki. So I 100% believe that Mirio needs to be mentioned or brought up back into the series before it ends. Another character that I need to see is Overhaul, because just like Mirio, Horikoshi brought Overhaul back into the series just to have him leave again, especially considering the fact that Deku potentially escorted Overhaul back to Eri so that he can apologize to her, meaning that Overhaul and Eri reunited, and we not only didn't see it, but we don't know if Overhaul can even use his quirk in his feet anymore. It's just so weird that Horikoshi brings back so many characters just to not have them do anything. Considering the fact that he brought back Muscular just to fight against Deku, and then bring back Overhaul the next altercation that he has with Lady Nagan, but this time Overhaul does nothing, it's very hard for me to believe that Overhaul isn't going to be brought back into the series before My Hero Academia ends, and he's not going to be a huge impact to the future of the series. Now, these 3 characters are 100% going to be brought up back into the series because Horikoshi himself said that these characters are going to have big roles in the end of the series. And those characters are Monama, Shinzo, and Shoji. Now, Shoji, who's obviously in Class A, who is already in the spotlight before the series of My Hero Academia ends, his big role is going to somehow connect to him in his face reveal. Because Horikoshi did mention in the Q&A section in the My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission pamphlet book that we got that he is going to reveal Shoji's face quite soon. And he also mentioned in the Jump Giga interview that he did last year that both Monama and Shinzo will have big roles at the end of My Hero Academia. So we 100% have to see these characters yet again, and I'm super excited to see what they do. Now, this character, I don't know if we're going to actually see him, but it's very possible, especially with the implication from Aizawa Sensei. But Kurogiri, or Shirakumo, might come back to bite All For One in the behind. There's nothing more for me to say but the fact that I believe this character will be shown before My Hero Academia ends. And the last person that we 100% need to see before My Hero Academia ends is Muwata Fuwa. And for those of you all who don't know who Muwata Fuwa is, she is a girl from Class 2A who got a lot of emphasis on on her for some random reason when Aizawa Sensei was talking to Shirakumo about why he expelled an entire class. And apparently she is not only one of the girls that was in the class that Aizawa Sensei expelled before Class A was Class A, but Horikoshi also said that she is 100% going to be coming back into the series in the future. And being that My Hero Academia is going to end in a year, she has to be brought up somehow before the series ends. Now, if you made it this far, you may have thought that I forgot about these 3 storylines. And I wanted to let you know that you should never try me ever again. Because obviously before My Hero Academia ends, we need to know the history of Quirks. We have to know where Quirks came from, why they spread throughout the entire world, and what the heck Quirks are in the first place, which can very much be revealed during the backstory of All for One, but we 100% need to know what Quirks are and where they came from. Next, we need to know where's Deku's dad. This is the most popular unrevealed storyline in the entire series, and no, it is not All for One, or maybe it is. Let me know in the comment section below. And the last thing that we 1,000,000% one for all need to see before My Hero Academia ends is Deku's I am here moment. Guys, remember, this is a story of how Deku became the greatest hero. And with all respect to Deku and his growth and his powers, he cannot be considered the greatest hero if he views himself as the greatest hero. Meaning he has to be viewed as the world's greatest hero by everyone on the planet. And the first step of Deku being viewed as the world's greatest hero is him presenting himself to the world in the way All Might did, saying, I am here. If I missed anything that we need to see before My Hero Academia ends, let me know in the comment section below. Win your zone every single day.